Hi. Hey, how you doing? Hey, y'all. How's everybody doing? Happy Tuesday. True Crime Tuesday. Everybody in the house. How's everybody doing? I know some people are loving the break that we get on Tuesday. And last week we actually had two true crimes in one week. Tonight is actually going to be an update on a few cases. One of those being the Kei'Mani Latique case. There have been some more things that have come out, some text message, well, actually messenger messages that are allegedly by Darnell Jones, which is the suspect in this case, also Kei'Mani's father. We also have updates on the NICU nurse nightmare. She is a nightmare herself. We've got some updates on that case. And also out of Connecticut, the House of Horrors, where the man was held captive for over 20 years. I believe he was 32 and only weighed 68 pounds whenever he set a fire so that paramedics and fire department would show up. So we've got a few things to get going. I am going to leave Facebook on. I know there are some people that prefer Facebook over YouTube. So the last couple weeks, I have been leaving Facebook on just for those people who prefer it over there. And so far, we haven't had any issues. So I'm going to do that. Yes, you know it's my fault. And I love you too, Carrie. I love all you guys. So we definitely have some interesting things to get into. So make sure everybody comes in, takes your seats. It's True Crime Tuesday. That one is weird. Yes, the case with they just released Connecticut police just released over 100 photos from inside the home in Connecticut, and I have some of those photos that I was able to track down to show you guys. So let's jump right into it. You guys know I don't like to mess around, so let's jump right into it with the case in Henrico, Virginia, with the NICU nurse who was accused of hurting an infant. Although there were 7 total infants, they were thinking they were unable to pin all of them on her because they didn't have cameras and things like that. Sadly, there has been another infant that has been added. There is now an 8th infant in this case. So let's listen to the update and see what's
Meantime,
happened.
the investigation to the NICU at Doctors Hospital uncovering an baby was seriously hurt.
Tonight, a former nurse is facing charges for 3 of those babies. 26-year-old Aaron Strotman was in court again this morning. Madison McNamee on your side at 6, and there are new details in this.
Yeah, Jasmine, prosecutors are actively investigating if Aaron Strotman is tied to those 5 other babies found with injuries, broken bones in the NICU. And Commonwealth's attorney Shannon Taylor says we could see more charges for Strotman. She tells me she's charged in 3 of those babies' cases for now. All of those incidents happened in 2024 after Strotman started working at Henrico Doctors again. She was put on administrative leave in 2023 when the hospital discovered the first NICU babies with suspicious broken bones that summer. She was ultimately brought back on, and then more babies were hurt. Taylor is trying to figure out if Strotman is to blame. She's working on setting up a trial, and we are going to hear more of those details in April. Right now, she says she feels good with a judge handling it.
For right now, the Commonwealth, we feel very good. Now, we may uncover something that we believe to be of the nature that we think that the citizens of Henrico should hear. But as of right now, we are confident with Judge Wallerstein's ability to hear this case.
Now, Taylor says she's confident in Wallerstein given his prior experience in juvenile court with child abuse cases, but Strotman's attorney did not share his preference with us yet for that trial. Her next hearing is set for April 10th. In the meantime, she remains out on bond with some new conditions today where she is going to have to get drug tested, but she can now call and also see her boyfriend as long as there's another adult present in that room. Madison McNamee, 12.
Okay, so there's the update. This was last week. She was in court. As you heard, she's been charged with 3 out of the 8 babies. The first 4 babies were hurt. She was put on administrative leave. She was brought back from that administrative leave. More children were hurt. Originally, she was only charged with one of the babies. Shout out to Kenyatta. P.S. It's a lot of us that love Connie's other content. I love True Crime Tuesday. Thank you so much for that super chat, and shout out to you. As I've said, with the drama, there is always going to be usually more numbers over there. But again, I'm not someone who focuses on views because views come and go depending on what you're talking about. But we are building a good community for True Crime Tuesday and are covering all different types of cases. We're doing updates and things like that. So again, I never said that it was the same engagement, but there is plenty of support here, and I'm not going to diminish that and say, oh, well, the numbers aren't the same, so it's not good. No, we have a great community here. And I appreciate all of you guys who are here every Tuesday or every time that I do a true crime or, even release a video. So thank you guys so much. And shout out to Kenyatta. So it looks like we knew she was out on bond. She now has new bond restrictions and things. She can now see her boyfriend. And this is what's interesting with this case. Exactly, Christy. We love it here, period. I know that's right. This is what's interesting with this case. Part of her bond, she could not see her boyfriend. Now, I thought that was strange. She couldn't see her boyfriend. I don't know what the stipulation, maybe, I don't know if he's in trouble with something else or what the case was, but she could not see her boyfriend. Now they say that she is allowed to see her boyfriend and have contact with her boyfriend, but an adult has to be present. So do you guys find that odd that that's like part of her bond stipulations, that first she couldn't see her boyfriend and now she could see the boyfriend, but another adult has to be present? I love you, Diana. Thank you, Tammy. Yes, it's in Virginia. Yes. I thought that was just odd. I'm like, why is that even a thing? Like, why is the boyfriend? This is something to do with children. Yes, Marky, that's what we were just talking about. An eighth child has been found out that was injured, Marky, and she's now up to being charged for 3 of the 8. And the first 4, they didn't have cameras or anything like that. So it's going to be very hard to charge her for those first 4. But I'm hoping that these last 4 that she'll be able to. Bridget, they really haven't given any like real reason that I could find as to why he wasn't allowed to see her and maybe not to get pregnant, but I don't even feel like that's a thing. Very odd. Yeah, but I feel like, Misty, if it was the children, I can understand her not being around the children, but he's an adult. So I feel like the adult aspect, it was just odd to me that that's even being mentioned. I don't know, Melody. I don't think he's a minor because I think then she would have other charges because she's most definitely not a minor. So no, I don't think that he's a minor because that would make no, like they wouldn't even be talking about this, that would be a whole other story. I haven't heard any of this. What is it exactly? Olivia, so this woman, I covered it on True Crime Tuesday. It's under the video tabs if you want to check it out after this, but this NICU nurse was accused of breaking bones of several infants in the NICU. There were 4 children that were hurt. 4 infants were hurt. She was put on administrative leave. She was brought back. Cameras were installed and they were able to, the first 4 were hurt, then 3 more were hurt. Now, the last baby that was hurt, I believe, no, the baby that was hurt in November 2024 is the original one she was charged with. And they actually have her on camera bending the baby's legs up to its head and then back down. And she fractured that infant's leg. So, now there has been a total of 8 babies in that particular NICU that she worked at the times that she worked, that all sustained injuries, including fractures. So there's 8 total. At first, she was only charged with the injury of 1 of the babies. Now she has been charged with 3 of the babies. And an 8th child has just now been identified. So we're in hopes that at least the 4 children after cameras were installed, they'll be able to charge her with. I still don't think they'll be able to charge her for those first 4 because the way their systems were set up and the way things happened, there were people in and out of the NICU that they can't really account for who did it. So we're hoping that those last four, when they installed the cameras, they'll be able to charge her for those. So that is that story basically. She was a NICU nurse that's accused of injuring the babies in the NICU, which is so sad because infants are a population that is so so fragile to begin with. And then you take the most fragile population of patient, which is a baby, and then you take an even more fragile population of that population, which is the NICU babies, which are the most fragile of fragile. And she chooses to hurt them on purpose. At first, when the babies were starting to become hurt, they were doing, they thought, because babies get an injection in their foot when they're younger or when they're born. And so, because they're NICU babies and they're so small, most of them, you're talking about some of these babies only being 2 pounds. And so they were thinking that they were injuring these bones with the injections they were getting at birth. So they were implementing classes on safe injections and things like that. Then when they put all of these security cameras in, they were able to basically track down the time baby's good at this time, and then all of a sudden baby's leg is blue and things like that. So they were able to go in and pull the cameras and actually see her hurting the child. So they realized then that maybe these injections, they weren't the problem. So yes, it's been an ongoing case, and we're updating it as it goes and as she goes through the court process, and as they continue to add more charges to her, because I definitely think that they will continue to add more charges that they can prove, of course. But this whole boyfriend thing, so now she does have to take, now that she's out on bond, but she does now have to take drug tests, which I don't know why that wasn't a thing from the jump if she was out on bond. I feel like that should be an automatic. But she now has to take drug test, and part of her bond, she can now contact the boyfriend and see the boyfriend, but another adult has to be present. So I don't know, maybe if that has something to do with her being a flight risk, and they feel like if she's around the boyfriend that she would be more of a flight risk. Maybe that's something to do with it. Yeah, she is the lowest of the low. Yes. I'm sure her family bonded her out. I would assume. I can look. I don't remember if they ever said who did bond her out. I mean, the families were not happy that she even got bond. So, yeah. All right. Into this is Virginia. This is Henrico. I always say it wrong. Henrico, Virginia. It's seriously so weird. It is. So that's the only thing I can think of is that he poses a flight risk for her, meaning that they want another adult to be there so they can't pack their shit and head out. That's the only thing I can think of, because I've not really, unless it's like a co-defendant or something like that, or if they're a felon and you're whatever the case may be. I've heard of things like that, but to just say this about the boyfriend, that's the only thing I can think in my mind is something about a flight risk. But I'll look more into it for sure. Yeah, the YouTube Premium, they're doing a thing right now. It's like a month free for YouTube Premium, and then you don't have to get the ads. Lord, she's glad she's out. She's out. I mean, she's glad she's out, of course. All right, let's go to the story, the disturbing story in Connecticut, the House of Horrors. Now that body cam has been released of them being at the scene, they have released photos from the scene. Just a little backstory on this case. This case is out of Connecticut, where a man was allegedly kept hostage in his own home for 20 years. There was a report, a CPS, I call it CPS, Protective Service, Child Protective Services. I know some people call it different things, but for those purposes, I call it CPS. So when you hear me say CPS, I mean Child Protective Services. When this man was 11 years old, he was living with his biological father and his stepmother. And there was a report, CPS came out because the boy had stopped going to school. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know if there was no follow-up. I think it was unfounded and they never did anything else. Well, after that report, and after they went there, they suspect that that is when they started holding him captive in his bedroom. Now, the man is 30, I believe he's 32 years old, and he set a fire with hand sanitizer in his bedroom so that his thinking was that the police, like the fire, the fire department would have to come if he started a fire and he would be able to break out. Now, his biological father passed away last year, and he reports that the abuse and the starvation and all of that got worse since his father passed away. So I'm wondering if that is why, that's one reason that he did this fire, because his biological father won't get in trouble because he's obviously not on the earth anymore. But when firefighters got there to the scene, the stepmother, now this is the part that got me. The stepmother, yeah, it's frozen on newscasters, but you should be able to hear me. You can't hear me? Hold on. You should be able to hear me, Phoenix. I just had it paused there. Everybody hears me, right? Let me just make sure. Give me a heart or something if you hear me. It seems like there's more to the story, and I think it's definitely going to come out for sure. So I just had it paused, you guys. That's all. But I forgot where I was now. Oh, anyway, so the body cam footage comes out, and when the fire department gets on the scene, now there's a fire in the home, right? When the fire department gets on scene, this woman is standing outside with her dog, and they're like, "Who else is in the house?" And she's like, "Oh, my stepson's in there." Like, what? I say he's held hostage because, Olivia, I say held hostage because he was locked in his room. He was not allowed to go out of the room unless it was like early in the morning for chores. He didn't go to school. He didn't do anything. He was kept in that room. Okay, you can hear me good. It's frozen on newscasters or whatever. It was just the end of the video. But yeah, that's why I say held hostage. I mean, he was held captive, I should say. Maybe that's the better word. But that is what basically the background story with this. He was held captive for 20 years in a Connecticut home by his father and stepmother. Last year, his bio father, passed away, and after a year of just being there with the stepmother, he deliberately set this fire for the fire department to show up so that he could be set free. Like I said, he's 32 years old. I believe they said I can't remember how tall. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but he was 68 pounds when they found him, a 32-year-old man. In the footage, you can see a firefighter carrying this man. Let me say that he was carrying a 32-year-old grown man like it was a child. I mean, and she's just standing there outside like, "Oh, my dog, my dog." And she just keeps going on about her dog, and her stepson's is still in the house and it's on fire. But these pictures, it wasn't just like he was being held captive. This whole thing is heartbreaking. But let's watch this video, and it does have, I believe it has like 23 of the pictures out of the 100 that they released.
Photos from the Waterbury, Connecticut home where a man was allegedly held captive for 20 years were released. Photos from the Waterbury, Connecticut home where a man was allegedly held captive for 20.
If you turn your phone sideways, you can see the pictures a lot bigger. And I hate that it's like this. I should have let me upload it to YouTube and see if it's any better. But I'll play it like this too. But yeah, if you turn your phone sideways, you'll be able to see the pictures better.
Police. The pictures depict a squalid living space with junk strewn across furniture and floors throughout the home. One photo of a tiny bathroom shows no open space to stand, a giant wooden plank in the bathtub and cardboard on the floor. Cops also took several photos of locks on doors throughout the home. Waterbury police did not provide additional information with the pictures, so it is unclear if any depict the room where the man was reportedly held. A photo of a bedroom shows various items on the bed and several other things haphazardly placed inside and on top of bins, with the floor barely visible. The bedroom appears to be larger than the room where the man was held, according to the police description. The man's stepmother, Kimberly Sullivan, has been accused of holding him prisoner inside a 9-by-8 room for 20 years. She pleaded not guilty Friday. Sullivan's stepson has not been publicly identified in consideration of his privacy. Sullivan, 57, was released on bail after she was arrested on March 12. The appalling situation was first discovered on February 17 when the man started a fire in the home in an effort to escape, police said.
Look at what first responders found when they arrived on the scene of a fire at a home in Waterbury, Connecticut, a home where cops say a man was held captive for 20 years by his own family.
The body camera video released today, as well as Kimberly Sullivan's call to 911 before she was charged with kidnapping and assault. With what it reveals, here's Eyewitness News reporter Dan Krauth.
Please hurry, it's 2 Blake Street, there's a fire. My son, his stepson is in his room, and I don't know, he did something with the TV.
A call to 911 from Kimberly Sullivan after her house caught fire. Police say her 32-year-old stepson used hand sanitizer and a lighter to set the fire as a way to draw in first responders and escape being locked in his room for 2 decades, starving and weighing just 68 pounds.
Did he get injured? Is he on fire?
Yes, he's injured. Please send the ambulance.
The fire happened in February, but after weeks investigating the story, police arrested Sullivan last week. Police body camera video shows when officers arrived on scene, Williams was out of the home holding her dog, her stepson still inside.
Come on, come down, come down. Who else is in the house? Who else is in here?
My stepson is in here.
How many other
Firefighters ended up pulling the victim out of the home and got him into an ambulance.
My dog is shaking.
In 2005, Waterbury Police and Children's Services conducted a welfare check when the victim was 11 years old and had stopped going to school. But police say nothing unusual was detected. As a boy, he begged classmates for food and ate items out of the garbage. The victim says for years he was only allowed out of his room briefly in the mornings to do chores, and that conditions worsened when his father died last year. Sullivan faces a number of charges, including kidnapping, unlawful restraint, and assault. Her lawyer insists his client is not a monster and was carrying out rules put in place by her late husband. She is free on bond while the victim continues to receive medical care.
A shower over here.
Sullivan's stepson told police he intentionally set the fire to escape the home.
Hello, are you Kimberly? Hi, I'm Detective Pesh. So take me right to the beginning of when you know there's a fire or there's smoke.
I smelled it.
Okay, where were you?
It's bad. I was screaming for him. I was screaming it, for him, and I was trying to go into the room, but there were just flames. I said, just come out. Just come out.
Okay.
Just come out,
Did he run through him?
I guess he did, yeah.
Okay.
I guess he did.
Was the door locked in his room or no?
No.
Okay, is it normally locked?
No.
Okay, it's normally open?
No. Yeah.
And he has free reign to go out of there whenever he wants?
Yeah.
Okay.
Police say that the 5'9", 32-year-old man weighed just 70 pounds. A judge ordered Sullivan to wear a GPS monitoring device while she's out on bail.
What did you know about Kimberly Sullivan before this had happened?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
She's a...
Okay, so this is the bio mom, because my thing was, where was the biological mother? Like, that was one of my first questions in my head, was because the father and the stepmother were allowed to do this, and he was held captive since 11. He didn't go to school, none of that. So in my mind, I was like, wait a second, did the mom pass away and he remarried? Like, what's the deal? Come to find out, the biological mother is alive. And the sister basically, she said more than the mom, in my opinion, and said that they didn't know where he was and that they had looked for him and things like that. But yes, this is his biological mother and sister that's on camera. Because again, that was one of I wanted to find out, like, where are they? What happened? What did they do?
Was the door locked on his room or no?
No.
Okay, is it normally locked?
No.
Okay, it's normally open?
Sorry, I
And he
rewound
has
it
free
too
reign to go
far.
out
Hold
of
on.
there whenever he wants?
Yeah.
Okay.
My bad.
Police say that the 5'9", 32-year-old man weighed just 70 pounds. A judge ordered Sullivan to wear a GPS monitoring device while she's out on bail.
What did you know about Kimberly Sullivan before this had happened?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
She's a mother on a quest for answers, coming to witness Kimberly Sullivan's brief court appearance this morning. The 56-year-old is accused of keeping her stepson locked in a room through adulthood, 20 years of captivity, though the abuse allegedly started before then.
My son said that it started when he was around 3. That would be about the time that those two met.
Sullivan and the boy's father lived in this house where the victim says he was held captive with little food and no medical care. Harsh treatment that allegedly got worse after his father died last year.
The stepson is in here.
In February, the victim deliberately set a fire to draw first responders to the home. Body camera footage shows a firefighter carrying the now 32-year-old. Sullivan has denied any wrongdoing.
Those allegations are serious, but those allegations are made by one person. I understand the whole world has jumped on those allegations and has already convicted my client. But the good thing about America is that's not how we work.
Sullivan is free on $300,000 bond. Meantime, the victim's biological mother and half-sister say they searched online for years for any sign of the person who stopped attending school when he was 11.
I was thinking that he was, allowed to be a human and living his life, and you just can't imagine anything like this happening because this doesn't happen.
The family has yet to have any contact with the victim, who continues to recover.
It's terrible. So they still have not been able to be in contact with him. Obviously, he's not spoken to them in 20 years at least. Yes, they carried him, Katie. That was what really shook me. Bio mom doesn't deserve to be in his life. How did he get with the father at 11? It sounds like he was there with the father before 11 downtime. That's what I'm saying. There's so much to the story that I have questions about. And again, this is a story that is coming out just like the NICU nurse, just like Kei'Mani Latique. Also, the story that we covered with the TikToker who was pew-pewed in the face. That's another story that, is evolving. I just haven't done an update on that one. So these cases I will continue to update as we know more. There's a lot of questions that I know that I have, you guys have. This is Connecticut, Devin. This was in Waterbury, I think is how you say it. Waterbury or Waterbury, I don't know. It's in Connecticut, put it that way. Recovery, how he will recover from this. They have talked about that he will need extensive, besides the mental part, the physical part, he will need extensive physical therapy because he is 5'9", he weighed 68 pounds. He was obviously malnutritioned, dehydrated. He had been living for years on the bare minimum. Basically, and when you are his body has been in starvation mode for 20 years, probably. We know at least he's been in starvation mode for the last year because he said that it got worse since his father passed away. You live 5 minutes from that area. We know that in the last year since his father passed away, that the starvation and everything had become worse. So we know that he has at least been in starvation mode, his body, for the last year, which the body will eat the fat. The body will eat. If it's in starvation mode, it will start. That's why people do a calorie deficiency so that your body will get rid of the fat and things like that. So his body, think of it like that, but like 1,000 times worse, to where his body starts, basically in layman's terms, to simplify it, the body basically starts eating away muscle mass, eating away everything it can to survive. Also, I would assume that his health is not great as far as his kidney function, his liver function. I mean, all of that is probably not good, so he will have to do extensive, not only on the physical side, extensive physical therapy and things like that, but it will take who knows how long, if ever. with the mental side of it and adjusting to life. Can you imagine being 32 years old and you've been held captive in a room since you were 11? He's probably never kissed a woman or a man, whichever he prefers. He's never had his first love. He never got to go to school. 11 years old, you're what, fifth grade? So he never got to go to middle school. He never got to go to high school. He lacks education. He lacks social skills. He lacks any type of trade or skill as far as a job or a career. He's never worked. He's never managed bills. He's never had a bank account. He's never had a credit card, a debit card. He's never had any of that. He has no idea. And I don't know what his life, and I'm eager to find out what his life was like prior to prior to him being 11. Was he in school? Now, I do know he was in school because they did mention that he used to beg his classmates for food. So it sounds like he was maybe living in poverty and not getting fed properly even before they started holding him captive. And it sounds like maybe things at school, they were probably may have been reporting them to CPS or whatever the case may be, and they jerked him out of school because the reports say that he would beg his classmates for food and stuff. So you can ever imagine. No, Christine, allegedly, from what I've been told, no one was ever at the home or anything like that. It was sort of like bio mom said he was being held in his room at 3. That's the thing. And she was saying, like, that's why I feel like there's so much more with this story, and it's so sad because the bio mom is saying things like that, but you never stepped in and you never. And then you say the sister says, like, we didn't know what, we've been searching everywhere for him. We didn't know what was going on. Like, there's more to that. I feel like the father was abusing him too, Jill. Oh, of course. But I think it did. I would assume, like he said, that it is true. It got worse once the father had passed away. And I almost feel like the fire, like she obviously knew he started the fire, and she says she was yelling for him. And the cop was like, well, could he get out? Was he locked in the room? And she's like, no. And he's like, is he normally locked in the room? No. And you can see in those photos that there was locks on the outside of the door. So and they wouldn't specify as far as oh, okay. Sorry, somebody sent me a message about the malarkey. They didn't specify like what room when they released the photos. They released them without anything, without any explanation for anything. So nobody knew exactly which room or whatever that it was. Let's see what ones I put in here. But you can see from these, let me show you guys these few photos right here before we get into the updates with the Kei'Mani Latique case. They didn't say like this is the bedroom, but you could clearly see, I don't know how much damage it did to the home, but you could clearly see some fire damage in some of those photos. But you could tell as far as like having visitors and stuff, I would assume they didn't. It seemed like the home was like a hoarder's home. And usually when things like that, they don't have many visitors because they hide that part of the home. They don't want people to see or whatever. So I'm interested to see if this goes to trial because, if it doesn't go to trial, we usually don't find out as much stuff. But if it goes to trial, I'm sure, laying it out as far as what his life was like, the first 11, then what happened as like, with neighbors. Did neighbors know? Did they ever see him? Things like that. He's been able to, he's able to talk and he's able to say different things and tell them, what happened or whatever. But I mean, can you imagine some of the things that he has Um, and just not talking to anybody. I'm sure they did. If they kept him captive, I don't think they were probably speaking to him a lot. So I just can't imagine all the things that he has to now go through and figure out on his own, because he has, his sister. I don't even know what that is on the steps, but you see his sister and his mom, they're coming out. They said they haven't had any contact with him since he's healing in the hospital or whatever. But it's just like, how can he navigate all of that? I hope that they help him with resources and housing. I'm sure they will. No sound. You don't have any sound? Hold on. Let me see if you don't. Let me see if I have sound. No one knew he was there. Yeah. Was your No, Lily, I didn't mean to make that private. I was trying to do something else. I hit the wrong button. I mean, I didn't mean to make it public. Okay, if you don't have sound, there's sound, guys. I have sound. If you don't have sound, go out and come back in. Well, you can't hear me. Go back and go out, come back in. It was on my end. Okay. Yeah, thank you for telling them to go out and come back in. All right, even though I don't trust your name, but so let's see here. So this is just pictures, you guys. All right, so you can see here it looks like a hoarder situation, right? You can see here, like, well, I don't even know what that is on the steps. What is that? You said it looked like carpet, like ripped up carpet? It looks like hair to me, maybe. What do y'all think? But anyway, so it looks like hair to me or something. I don't know. But you can tell it's clearly a hoarder situation. Kind of, I don't know if you'd call it a hoarder situation, but it's definitely like deplorable living conditions. And see, you can see here where it's burnt. Like you could see the burnt, the damage or whatever. But clearly they were, they weren't the cleanest people. That's for sure. Let me get on my phone. All right. I just want to make sure I've got it pulled up. Yeah, these are pictures, yes, from the fire. Looks like pieces from the ceiling peeling. It just looks like they haven't vacuumed in 10 years. It's filth. Hey, Karma. Yeah. This is just a few of them I had where I could zoom, but you could see they released over 100 of these photos from the house. I mean, just awful. That's from last night. I think that's the only pictures that I had in here. I mean, except for that video that I posted or that I showed you guys. All right. So that case is definitely, there is going to be a lot that's going to come out about that case. I believe we're going to hear a lot more about how things happen. Someone is in these comments. She says she lives down the street. Yeah, I pinned her comment, HWNI. So we're going to talk about that case. Probably we'll have to, you hate to see people living like that. Yeah. The bathroom says it all about the filthy living. Yeah. You couldn't even get into the bathroom really. You had no room to move around. And that's another thing. There was a big piece of plywood in the bathtub. Like obviously they weren't using the bathtub, right? The sink you could tell there was stuff all in the sink. So they probably weren't washing hands. I mean, it was awful. So who knows? He probably has to be on antibiotics and everything. He probably has infection. He'll probably be in the hospital for quite some time. Plus, they have talked about physical therapy and all of that that's going to be needed. He's going to have to learn how to life. basically. He's going to have to learn how to do everything. I mean, he was an 11-year-old boy that put in it. And before that, who knows what his life was like? He probably didn't have the best life to begin with. And then to be locked, and he was locked. You could tell there was locks on doors everywhere. He was locked in that room. And then she's like, well, he did something with the TV. I didn't even see a TV in the room, which it could have been. It could have caught fire. But God has plans for this young man with his size and his poor body. He should have been gone from the earth, but God has big plans for him. And that's another thing. I saw somebody in the comments say, you feel horrible. Like, how can you neglect a child? Yes. As a neighbor, when I heard this story, I was saddened how we never saw him or never saw go. I think you mean never saw him. The stepmom's conscience was non-existent. I saw somebody in the comments say that they felt like he knew he was dying or would be dying soon, and he knew he had to get help. I would assume that every day since his father passed, that he's probably been thinking about it, and he probably just didn't have the necessities in order to do it or whatever. Also, I'm wondering if she had hand sanitizer in there because was he going to the bathroom in bottles or a urinal, or did she have a bedside commode in his room? And that's why she had the hand sanitizer in there, or did he just snatch the hand sanitizer? Like, there's going to be so much. I'm sure people will be trying to write a book with him and, describe what he went through because people are curious. I mean, people can't fathom that, especially being locked up. You did nothing. You were a child, and it's your dad and your stepmom that did it to you. But I'd say, especially since the dad passed away, he's been trying to figure out a way to get out. But I wouldn't doubt that, being 68 pounds at 5'9", that he wasn't thinking he was going to. So I think a lot of stuff is going to come out. And if it goes to trial, we'll get to see all of the evidence and all of the things that, they'll lay it all out. Because again, I'm very curious why. Here's my thing. And I know things are different because when, years ago when this, when he would have been pulled from school. But my thing is at 11 years old, the kid drops out of school or, is pulled out of school. CPS gets a report that he's been pulled out of school. They go by the house. They say there was nothing to make them think or whatever. And then you just continue to let him be pulled out of school. Like, I'd love to find out. Did the parents say that they were homeschooling him? Is that the thing? What was it? Yeah, karma. All right, let's get into, but yes, I will keep you updated. As I said, that is a developing story. So I'll keep you updated on that one as well as the NICU nurse story. But let's get into the Kei'Mani Latique updates. There's been some updates with this and such a tragedy. Well, if you have not seen the coverage that I've done on this Kei'Mani Latique story, I did the first part was last Tuesday for True Crime Tuesday. I did an update on Friday, which would have been her 14th birthday, and now there's more stuff that has come out. So if you missed those, definitely go back and replay those. I keep forgetting. I'm going to in the description. I'm going to write that down because I'll forget. But in the description of the videos, I'm going to start tagging. I think I did last time. I think I did on the one Friday. And I put the first part, but I'll tag in each video the parts. So let me write that down real quick. Tag the parts because that way you guys can go back and if you haven't done them, if you haven't watched them, you can tag the part for money. But this story is also a developing story. This is a sad story of Kei'Mani Latique. She was a 13-year-old girl who went missing in Toledo, Ohio. I think it was less than a week after she went missing. No, it was about a week after she went missing. Sadly, her body was found in an abandoned home in the city of Toledo, and the suspect is her father. So we do have some updates on this. So let's take a look.
How old are you?
This was Kei'Mani.
6. Let me see your hair. Turn around, even. Ooh.
Welcome to True Crime Tuesday with your host, Feminine and Fierce. That's me. We are continuing our coverage on Kei'Mani Latique's case, a tragic case out of Toledo, Ohio, where a 13-year-old girl was reported missing and later found in an abandoned home, and it was too late. Sadly, her own father accused of this tragedy.
1 week since 13-year-old Kei'Mani Latique was found in a dilapidated home in East Toledo. Hundreds of balloons, toys, and flowers have been left at the house by friends, family, and strangers. Megan Hartnett joins us live at the house. Megan, people are still out there. Have you spoke with any today?
Kaylee, clearly Kei'Mani has had an impact on the community as this memorial for her continues to grow. There's balloons, flowers, basketballs. People keep coming and dropping stuff off. But one man I spoke with perfectly summed up what it's like to be out here, saying it's breathtaking but heartbreaking.
I've never seen nothing like this. This is really, really pretty big.
Cards, candles, crosses decorate the front lawn of the house where 13-year-old Kei'Mani Latique's body was found on March 24th. People continually coming to pay their respects. One man saying he's never seen anything quite like this in the 77 years he's been alive. But many still have questions about what happened. Darnell Jones has been charged with Kei'Mani's murder, and he has been charged with felonious assault in Columbus. Jones was shot by a Columbus police SWAT officer last week and was taken to the hospital. Jones has not been booked yet. Toledo police say Jones is still in Columbus, and they do not know when he will be brought to Toledo. WTOL 11 reached out to Columbus police and the Franklin County Sheriff's Office for any updates and is still waiting for a response.
I think that the community came together and did their big one for Kei'Mani, and that we all just want to see a successful, proper burial for her.
Kei'Mani's funeral was originally going to be handled by Brown Legacy, but now a representative Dale Riggs Funeral Home says they will be handling the arrangements. Brown Legacy Memorial posted on social media saying, quote, all funds raised thus far, totaling approximately $6,000, will be transferred directly to the new funeral home to ensure that Kei'Mani's services are carried out with the care and respect she deserves. WTOL 11 has reached out to see if the funds have been transferred yet, but is still waiting on a response from the director of the funeral home. We're also hoping to get more information from the funeral home about whether or not there's going to be a public service and what the date of that would be.
Short 13 years, Kei'Mani was enrolled in 6 different schools, and tonight we're hearing from some of the people from those schools who say
This teacher that they interview on here is the teacher that I spoke with.
Came to school with potential signs of abuse.
Michael Sandlin joins us. Michael, what did they have to say to you?
Well, Kaylee, Jeff, they say they tried to sound the alarm and it fell on deaf ears. I spoke to a classmate of Kei'Mani's who says she tried to tell a teacher, and I spoke to a teacher who says she tried to tell CSB. In both instances, the person they tried to help is now gone.
She came to school with bruises on her.
That's 7th grader Imani Fisher, a classmate of Kei'Mani's from her most recent school, Spring Elementary. Fisher says she would often see Kei'Mani come into class with visible markings, so she and other students decided to say something to a teacher.
And she said she would deal with it, but I don't think nothing happened.
TPS representatives say they have no records of abuse against Kei'Mani to either CSB or TPD. But it's also not the first time someone has raised concerns about what was going on inside Latique's home. Kayleen Harabedian was her 6th grade English teacher at Bennett Venture Academy, the last school she attended before spring. Harabedian says she also spotted visible markings and bruises on Kei'Mani.
It's hard because, especially in a role like education, your day doesn't end at 3:30. You take these things home with you. They weigh on you. I'm a parent myself, and I tried my best to make sure that she was removed from that environment.
Harabedian claims she put in multiple calls to CSB. Kei'Mani's grandmother and legal guardian Dorothy Latique says they did come knocking on her door, but she denies there was any abuse in the home.
I've went through this twice because the school system had contacted CSB on her behalf when she went to Bennett Academy. And they came in, they did a case study and closed it. They've stated there's a way to chastise children without physically harming them, and you need to whoop them on their behind, nowhere else. So, okay, with that in mind, I knew that.
It's important to note Dorothy Latique is currently not charged with any crime, and Kei'Mani was allowed to continue living with her following the alleged CSB check-in.
It just fell on deaf ears, and I think that had she been investigated more, this was looked more into, she would 100% be alive today.
Wednesday morning, a new piece of graffiti has been sprayed on the burned-out home where Kei'Mani's body was found. CSB, where's your accountability? A question city council members like Susanna McPherson are asking now as well.
I want to hear from CSB. We all do. What happened? What was the missing link? Where was the disconnect?
We reached out to Lucas County Children's Services to see if they had any reports of abuse against Kei'Mani. They tell us that any reports they might have would be protected by Ohio privacy laws and would not be fit for public reporting.
Lucas County Children's Services did provide some information today on Kei'Mani's case. They also stated that information regarding investigations of child abuse and neglect are confidential. The prosecutor did, however, approve the release of some limited information. Lucas County Children's Services went over her case history with the agency while in the care of her grandmother. There was one entry in December of 2023 and 2 reports in March of 2024. All were investigated by Lucas County Children's Services, including talking to Kei'Mani alone, and they say no evidence was found that would have led them to take her from the home.
I spoke to Lucas County Commissioner Pete Gherkin today, and he says that he wants answers. He told me that commissioners may launch a task force to investigate Children's Services and figure out how the agency can rebuild trust with the community. In the wake of 13-year-old Kei'Mani Latigue's death, Lucas County Children's Services is under scrutiny.
It feels like we all reached out and did our due diligence as mandated reporters to make sure that she was in a safe environment, and this is the outcome.
I first talked with teacher Kayleen Harabidian Tuesday night at the vigil for Kei'Mani. She said she reported concerns of abuse when she taught the girl last year, now making a plea to Children's Services.
Hear these children, hear these reports that are being made, and do a little bit more investigating so something like this doesn't happen again.
It's not just community members who are speaking out, also elected leaders. Lucas County Commissioner Gherkin said he believes the system needs to change.
This is probably the lowest point that I've seen of disconnect between Lucas County Children's Services and the community.
He said the agency has lost trust with the community.
Kei'Mani's tragedy is one. The bigger tragedy is when we have a system that's supposed to be protective of children that the community doesn't trust. That's what I want to work on.
Gherkin said it's difficult to run a Children's Services board, but the commissioners are ready to step in and help. He proposed launching a task force to investigate CSB and how cases are handled.
They've already asked for help from us. We have a track record of doing this well in the past. If they ask formally and they want us to do that, and even if they don't, we may take our own actions. But it's certainly time for something to happen, and we want to be part of that.
Hoping to rebuild trust and reinforce safety. Commissioner Gherkin told me that he will wait until they have that emergency meeting tomorrow before he takes action. If members ask for a task force, Gherkin said he wants to bring in outside groups that may include foster parents, welfare, school, and court leaders.
Thank you. And after the Children's Services Board deliberated for hours last night, Lucas County commissioners officially today launched the Children's Services Task Force.
Speakers at today's news conference made it clear that the task force will not investigate specific cases, but rather the agency as a whole. 13 Action News reporter Brenna Nye was at the news conference today. She joins us live with the details. Brenna.
Yeah, Christian and Lee, county officials say the purpose of this task force was to restore the public's trust in the county.
This is going to the beginning of a very complex and probably lengthy process to take on a task that the community has, I think, supports, wants to have done, but we're going to do it thoughtfully, we're going to do it respectfully, we're going to do it correctly.
Friday was the official launch of the Lucas County Children's Services Task Force. Lucas County commissioners made it clear that the creation of this task force will primarily be to mend relationships with the public. It will not investigate Kei'Mani Latigue's case.
That case is probably a symptom of many that the community needs to think they have addressed, but our task force will not and should not and won't be part of that investigation.
Commissioner Pete Gergen says the group will include people who are familiar with the system, as well as those first reporters like schools.
Our shared goal is a broader to ensure that every child and every family in Lucas County receives the protection and the care they deserve. Nothing can be more important.
I wasn't given an opportunity to ask any further questions than what was said.
I want to say up front and be clear that we'll not be taking any questions or doing any one-on-one interviews at the conclusion of this. We're going to stay focused on our message.
The message made clear.
This system has to be allowed to work to get better.
It's going to give us the framework to do better. We know we have to do better. Our families deserve better. Our children deserve better.
And as you just heard from Lily, we just learned information within today, the last hours of today, about new evidence coming out from Children's Services that investigated multiple reports into Kei'Mani and where she was living, her living organization, or what was going on with her, and learned that there was no reason to pull her out. They also said that they had no information about her father, Darnell Jones, which of course is charged with her murder.
This is her father in 2019.
And that's the reason going through all of this shit. We can't do the test. That's gonna be over, bro.
He was definitely, in my opinion, a very disturbed person for years. This video here is in 2019, and apparently this was something that was just his personality, that he struggled a lot, allegedly.
I just want to be over with. I hate the way I think. I hate the way I see things. And all I do is sit back and try to just act like I don't see shit. Because if I do something about it, I'm going to jail. I'm the one getting in trouble.
Some also have speculated that when he says, if I see something and I do something about it, I'm going to be the one who gets in trouble. And some have speculated, was he talking about seeing abuse of his daughter or something like that? Was he maybe, referencing something with his daughter? Who knows? As far as that theory, but I feel like it speaks to what he was going through, even though it was in 2019.
I just want to know, what's the real purpose for me to be here, man?
Darnell Jones' girlfriend, they do share at least one child together. I don't know.
I want to shout out this creator. She has some videos about this case. I just want to get it right. It's Shanitra Speaks is her page name. So make sure, I want to make sure that she gets shout out. That's who's speaking in the background.
How many other kids they share together, but they do have at least one child together. Her sister has come out and has publicly asked for the harassment against her sister to stop. Now, there is someone who allegedly leaked the area of where her residence was at. Based on this, her sister has been getting harassed, and her sister, again, it's Darnell's girlfriend. It's her sister that has come out and publicly asked for the harassment against the girlfriend to stop. And she said, where's my sister's apology? All that is threatening to her house, leaking her address for to drive by her house knowing she had children in the home, pointing fingers when clearly she helped get the man behind the bars. Radio silence. That is the sister. She's asking for the harassment against her sister to stop. In addition to the sister asking for the harassment to stop against her sister has kids with another man. That man has stepped up, and he's also requesting for the harassment to stop. Now,
listen, he also drops bomb, and he says that Darnell confessed to her that Dorothy was involved in Kei'Mani's case. Now, this is alleged to be messages between him and someone else on Facebook Messenger.
Also, I do want to point out the now ex-girlfriend, which was the girlfriend at the time. She's the one who's allegedly getting harassed. She is actually who led police to him in Columbus. She is also the person who, when Darnell told her turn the cameras off when he went to hide something under her stairs, she left the cameras on and she called police immediately and was like, "Hey, he hid something under the stairs. He's headed to Columbus." So I'm not sure why the harassment. Maybe they think she has something further to, that she knows more than she's letting on. But I will say that part. Hey, Tammy.
Messenger, and they uploaded the messages, and this is from his account, and the messages go, they would have never unalived him because I needed a confession. Why he would need a confession, that's a little strange that he would be saying he needed confession. Then the person says, "What you mean you need?" He said, "Needed a confession." And then they say, like, "Why are you involved in this?" And then he tries to call them and they didn't answer the call. You guys know we're in technology days where people want you to message them so that they can screenshot for these purposes. So that he tried to call them and they didn't answer, and they replied and said they're in the tub. And then he clarifies his role in this, and he says, "That's my baby mom, baby father's boyfriend." So what he's saying is that, the mother of his kids and Darnell girlfriend is the same woman. And then, of course, Darnell and her share a child together. So he's letting them know that that's the relationship. So here's where you need to pay attention. In this, as the conversation goes on, the person says to them, after he clarifies the role, he then goes on to explain that the only reason why the police found Darnell is because of Darnell's girlfriend. He says that Darnell was calling the girlfriend and she wasn't answering, and it was detectives who told her to answer the phone and get as much information as she can so that they can find him. As you recall, Darnell, after he committed the horrific crime against his daughter, he fled people's phone. The detective told her not to tell anybody what was going on or any leads so they couldn't tip him off. I'm over here right now at her house because they keep threatening to come over and up the house on social media, and I ain't letting that slide. Then the person says that Granny had a part in it as well. Now, here's another part that you have to pay attention to. He explains, he said, "It's crazy that you said that," because he had called and he was talking to her and she was trying to keep him on the phone long enough to get a confession, and he said she had something to do with it, but the recorder that she had on her phone didn't catch it because she didn't turn on the recorder, but the cops were getting recordings from her and she was only doing what the detectives told her to do, and people keep popping up trying to get answers, and the way in the house they keep trying to say she has something to do with it, but I'm over here with her since about Sunday. She ain't hide nobody in here, she ain't hid no evidence, nothing like that. They're just making up storylines. They really don't know what's going on. And then the person replies and says, "Well, please stay safe." And then he said, "I'm going to try, but I'm not going to let nobody come over here, and my kids are over here." So keep in mind that what he just revealed is that Darnell told the mother of his child that Kei'Mani's grandmother was involved in it. Apparently, she was trying to record the phone conversation, but she thought she was recording it. She wasn't, as I just discussed. But Darnell revealed to her that Dorothy had something to do with Kei'Mani's case. What are your thoughts on this? Do you believe that this is valid? Do you believe that Dorothy had something to do with it? Of course, this is from the girlfriend of Darnell. This is from her children's father's social media account. I've removed his picture, of course, because I don't want to put the information out there, but it is, messages from him.
Also, as they have talked about, Richard Brown, who was the owner of the Browns Memorial that was collecting money for Kei'Mani's funeral, he was actually charged with 4 counts of endangering children and 2 counts of disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. He was accused of abusing at the time, ages 18, who Okay, so if you guys remember, whenever we did the story on Friday, they still had not, it was just breaking that this man was a P word himself, and people were outraged Friday when I did my live. And the guy, Andrew, had broke it about the funeral homes, and that the Castillo guy that actually had the body at the time had donated all of his services, and he couldn't understand why this Brown's funeral home needed $12,000 when all that he could think of that needed to be paid for was the casket, because everything else was being donated. So it was coming out all on social media, like, please don't let him do this, which we know now that Castillo actually, it was sent to another funeral home now, and allegedly Brown was supposed to, he had collected $6,000 at the time, or that's what he said he had collected, was $6,000 at the time. And he says that he took that he was sending the $6,000 to the new funeral home for her funeral, which again, people can't figure out. Why are you taking donations if everything was donated? So this is the story about that funeral home director, because some people were asking, like, what's the story with him? Is he really the P word? Did he really get charged? Things like that. So check this out about him. Met him as a youth pastor at Friendship Baptist Church. He's accused of both coercing the boys into posing for inappropriate photographs, as well as practicing corporal punishment on boys. He pled no contest to the charges that he encouraged young men to have sex with other men for money, and he was found guilty. He was sentenced to serve 100 hours of community service, pay a $500 fine, seek counseling, and have no contact with his victims. He was reported as saying he's fine with probation as long as everybody leaves him alone. I'm fine. But he did violate his probation the next year because he was ordered to seek sex offender treatment, and he says that he's not a sex offender. However, when investigators seized his computer, they found emails he sent to several young men. In those emails, he encouraged them to have sex with other men for money and also provided them with young women for sex. Although he refused to go, it doesn't look like he actually ever spent time in jail, sadly.
To expose him, not out of spite, or not out of following the trend or anything, but I believe it's time to make his name known, and not in a good way. Make his name known so that all who are victimized by him, or who were victimized by him, that you're not alone, that there's someone here for you, that is someone here in your corner, that you are not crazy, that if no one else believes you, I believe you, because it happened to me. And I want to share my story, and I want to blow his name up. And so everyone would know not to trust him, not to do business with him, not to I'm not mad.
This is the father. Hey, Hood Billy. Isn't that crazy? To think that this little girl, this happened to this little girl, and then this funeral, a couple people, which Castillo, I always say it wrong, that funeral home that did the embalming and things like that, they are legit. They're upstanding citizens, supposed to be great people. But this Brown's funeral home that stepped up and said, hey, I'll do it, and then, said he would donate his time and all this stuff, and then started raising money and saying he needed $12,000. The fact that he got involved with this baby girl's tragic case, and he is a P word his damn self. He's a PDF file, and he steps up and says, oh, I'll help with this baby girl's funeral. This case just, that part just makes, I mean, the community was outraged. More than the community, all of us that have been following this case. It was an outrage. When I found that out, that's exactly one reason. And I found, everybody found out on her birthday. It was her birthday. That's one reason I did that live Friday. Because as you guys know, on Thursday, when people were asking about doing an update, I was like, oh, I can't do it until Monday. And then I did it on her birthday because all this came out about the funeral home. And it's like, who knows? I hope they investigate and find out exactly how much he really earned from those donations, because he said he earned $6,000. I feel like he probably earned more than $6,000. And I hope that they investigate, because he was trying to raise $12,000. And again, even the Castillo funeral home, he said the only thing that was left was her casket. And he said, that you can get really high end caskets, but $12,000, absolutely not. They are horrible. Well, high vibe now. Now you know why. All right, so this is her father. Again, the suspect in this case. Right, Bonnie. Pros.
So much stress, so much anger, and I'm just trying to do the right thing. I pray, I read my Bible, I try to help out people the best as I can, and I'm just not feeling this. And I ain't financial or none of that, bro. If you thinking that's what it is, it's nothing like that. It's just something mental, you know what I'm saying? I'm going through something mentally and physically fucked up with me. I ain't been feeling the same. Ain't nothing wrong, man. Just, I don't know. There's a lot of shit that's on my chest that I can't control. It ain't, like, I don't know how to explain it, man. All I got to do is just keep trying to stay good, man. That's all. I ain't get on here to have nobody show sympathy, nothing, or anything. It's just so much shit happens to people out here, and nobody know what really the real stories be. So, I just get on here, try to let people know what's going on. If you care, you care. It's just something mental. I just want a hug, y'all. Give me a hug. A hug would be wonderful. Motherfuckers is silly,
2021.
Want to wish death on people and don't know the story. I wouldn't even wish death upon my worst enemy. That's the crazy part. Now you try to take my life. That's a different story. I'll be back healed one day. People that really want to know the story, ask me.
I received a call earlier this morning from Kei'Mani's family asking me, can I speak on behalf of them and help kind of clear up the rumor of her not having her body parts, both her hands. As to what Columbus Police Department reported, as to what our news reported, I am not saying, the family is not saying that it is a lie. So we're not going to disregard what they said, but they want to assure everyone that she has her body parts, so no one is out searching and looking. There was a concern from families, not just one, that they didn't know if it was safe for their kids to go outside to play in case they came across something like that. So the point of making that post and the point of the family reaching out on behalf of them was for me to let you guys know that she has her limbs, her body parts. She obviously, we all know she suffered injuries, but she has her body parts. And that's what this video was about. Just to, I don't really go back and forth in my comments, you know. I try to respond back to people, but I feel like this will be better. So yes, I did receive that call this morning. Eyes have been placed on her. They are both there. No family has to worry about their children coming across it. We don't need anybody out looking for it.
I know this was something that you guys had asked, if they were in different like where they were, if they were, because some people have said that they felt like the abandoned home was just an ending place. That's not where it happened. So people were asking when I had covered it the last 2 times, like, did they find those parts? Were they there at the home? Questions like that. So I wanted to make sure and include this for sure. I know it's a hard subject matter.
Or anything like that. Today is a day of celebration for Kei'Mani. The family is asking for peace at this moment, but I do see the ways that the community is coming together to celebrate her, and I think it's an amazing. Thing. I want to give a shout out to her. Happy birthday, baby. Your community is standing very strong behind you. But yeah, that's what this live video was about.
For the past 5 years, Kei'Mani lived with her grandmother, Dorothy Latique, who had officially gained custody of her just 1 year ago. Sadly, just a year after being placed in her grandmother's care, Kei'Mani's life was cut short. If you're following Kei'Mani's case, then you know there's been a huge discussion about what led the authorities to Kei'Mani's body being discovered in the abandoned home in Toledo, Ohio. Now, a lot of people have speculated.
This was another thing because they said that there was a lot of talk that the grandmother actually, because we all know whenever she allegedly came home from quote unquote work, which we know in the arrest video, there was a friend that said, you weren't at work, you were out drinking with me. But again, that's all alleged. But when she says came home from work, she called the school and the school staff before she called 911. People also alleged that the grandmother, when they found the body, called the news media instead of the police. But all of the reports that came out said the police found her. However, they're now saying there was a crowd at the home whenever they discovered the body. So clearly, if it's a small town or people know everybody, it could be possible that the grandmother was there and called the news media before police found the body. So let's take a listen to this part.
About what led the authorities to Kei'Mani's body being discovered in the abandoned home in Toledo, Ohio. Now, a lot of people have speculated that Kei'Mani's grandmother called the authorities to tell the authorities where Kei'Mani's body was. Now, the chief of police for Toledo he conducted a question and answer session regarding Kei'Mani's case. The question was posed to the police chief. It was, did the Toledo Police Department receive a tip about Kei'Mani's body that was found in the house? Is that how you guys found out about it being there, correct? Now, the police chief responded and he said, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Actually, which tip? He claims that it was through detective work, really through some interviews and investigating. And he also said at this time, he couldn't disclose why or how because it's still very pertinent to the investigation. But he said, he doubles down and says, but yes, it was our detectives doing a great job interviewing and following up on some leads to that location. So that's according to the police chief. Now, another question that was posed was that whether or not when the investigators showed up there, there were a lot of people that were outside. And with the community being outside and people recording, they wanted to know if that interfered with the investigation. They said when the body was reportedly found in the house and the community spread the news, a lot of people showed up quickly while you guys were there doing your work. There was a lot of live streaming on their phones and showing the scene and just kind of talking about it in general. There was a huge presence there. Did that at all impact your work there or how you guys were doing it? Could you guys have done anything differently? Now, this question is important because there is a lot of talk online about when content creators or when people who cover true crime or just people in general, they are talking about Kei'Mani's case, whether or not these theories are going to interfere with the investigation or impact the integrity of the investigation. There's a lot of talk about this.
True.
You know, you see comments, you see people that will say, stop covering the case because you're going to mess up the investigation. So this is what the police chief said. No, obviously, anytime you add a little bit of chaos to a scene, that makes it a little bit harder for us to do our job. But, you know, we're prepared for that. So we have officers that can contain the outer perimeter and make sure that no one gets in. And then our detectives, they're focused on their job. They're going to do their job, whether there's people watching or not. So they're still going to be able to do it. It's just the outside officers being involved more and trying to maintain, as you just said, a very highly, you know, scene for good reasons. But the reality is it doesn't affect the investigation itself. It just makes it a little bit harder, you know, for the officers at the scene to maintain the perimeter. So the investigations are not, the investigation, is not impacted because the officers are going to do their job no matter what. So that's good for us to know, right? So regarding Darnell, he's the suspect and father of Kei'Mani. Darnell Jones, he's currently in police custody and he was questioned. Now, this is important, so I really want you guys to pay attention to this. If you saw the grandmother's interview, Dorothy's interview, if you remember, the reporter posed a question to her about the investigation, about, you know, what she knew or something to that effect. Dorothy responded and said, well, actually, he made a confession to the authorities. Now, according to what Dorothy said, he partially confessed. According to Dorothy, he made a partial confession, right? Now, based on this confession, then the reporter wanted to know, because keep in mind, this is the same, you know, news station, same kind of reporter, sister stations that have been conducting the interviews with Kei'Mani's grandmother, her aunt, and with the police. So they have a good background of the case. So they're wanting to know, has he confessed to anything? They're asking this question because they're posing that question to the police chief because Dorothy has already told them that Darnell Jones has allegedly made this confession that Dorothy said she got from the police. So pay attention to this. He says, "Oh, we did send detectives down and interviewed him in the hospital room. We made progress there, so we have some things that we're going through at this point. Once we get all the information that he provided and that we've gathered, we'll meet with prosecutors. We'll walk through the timeline with the prosecutors and decide with their guidance on the charges that will be found. And then at that point, we'll talk about what charges are going to be out there. We'll release that information. But right now, we did talk to him. We are moving forward. I would say we're in a pretty good spot. Anyways, on moving forward with the case. So keep this in mind. What he is saying is that the police chief is saying that they went to the hospital. They talked with Darnell. They've made some progress. We have some things. And once we get all the information that was provided, they'll meet with prosecutors. So he's not really admitting that Darnell made the confession. He's saying they have some things. So more to come on that. So they did say here is that they read that he was charged with, the kidnapping, and are there additional charges coming? Because at this time, Darnell Jones was only charged with the kidnapping, but he had not yet been charged with Kei'Mani's murder. Although, according to the grandmother, he made the confession. What are your thoughts about that? Do you guys believe that the authorities told Dorothy Latique that Darnell Jones made a confession? And if the authorities did tell Dorothy that, do you guys think Dorothy should have told that to the news station? Because keep in mind, the police chief has already shown that he's kind of upset with some things in this case about the other police department releasing some information in the case, the based on how sensitive it is.
So basically, they're upset. The police chief is upset with the SWAT because the guy got on there and said what he said that day when they captured the guy, because his adrenaline was running. He was pumped up or whatever, and they want to keep some of the stuff close so that they know whether they're getting a true confession, whether they know that people that were involved or whether they had involvement knew these certain things. And the police chief's upset was basically they're saying is upset because the SWAT gave out very sensitive information about, even before the autopsy came out, the SWAT had said that about her neck and her arms, and people could pretty much figure out what the cause of death was, right? And because he even said like she had been raped and all of this stuff, which we know that there's not even been any charges for that yet. So the police like to keep that stuff, good night, Julie. They like to keep that stuff close to the case so that they can weed out whether people really know what happened and all of that. So when that SWAT went on national television and said what he said, there was a lot of things in the case that were wide open then, and they couldn't use any of that to in their police investigation. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Also, they're saying that the grandmother, when she did her interview, she said, well, Darnell, he confessed or whatever. What did she say? She said, well, she said that he confessed. Then she goes, well, no. Well, he said he did this or whatever. So come on. They're saying a lot of stuff out there, and it makes it harder for the police. Even though they have him, there's probably more people involved. And I think that's where they were shooting for, because I don't think they think that he did this on his own. I think the police, in their minds, just probably like our minds, think that there were other people involved. Yeah, Colorado, I am. I've been leaving the Facebook Live just for certain people that want to watch it over there.
And going into detail to say how Kei'Mani passed away. He said that hurts the investigation. What he said is that things like that, they want to keep private. And the reason why they want to keep those things private is because they'll use that to their advantage. And there are certain aspects of the case that only the suspect.
Also, is that does that benefit the grandmother? If she is involved, does it benefit her? Would it have benefited her if she was on the scene calling the cops? I mean, there's so many rumors going on. But does that benefit the grandmother because she got up there and did those interviews and said the things she said? Or does that hurt her? Because I feel like all this family that is running to social media, that's running to the media, that's doing interviews, I feel like they probably think they're helping themselves, but usually in most cases that tends to be something that is used against them. We've seen it in many cases where people will get cocky with the media and talk to them and say things, and that gets used in court sometimes. I think the grandmother has a whole lot more to do with it than we know already. Yeah, I do too. Sometimes I think he feared Granny. Maybe. I just feel like, first of all, you're letting her go with him, and then you say that he was grooming her. Like, I don't know. I just feel like you don't say that word unless you've been seeing it or you feel like you deep down you felt that way. I think they're allowing Granny to dig her own hole. Probably Jill. I have no doubt she's involved. I mean, those text messages, if those text messages are legit, and again, the cops are going to get all this stuff. I mean, they're going to go through devices and they're going to find out, because even if you delete shit, even if whatever the case may be, they can find that stuff and they can subpoena Facebook. They can subpoena everything. They can get it all. And eventually, if it goes to trial, all of that will be in the discovery.
Made the confession, and if the police told authorities, do you think that Dorothy should have told the news station what she said? And also remember that when he fled to the other city, that they said that they described the manner in which Kei'Mani passed away, and it was a horrific manner. Do you guys think that that was too many details? Because the Toledo Police Department said, yes, that was too many details to provide. Now, I need you guys to pay attention to this, because this is a really big point. Remember when Darnell said that he went over to the house and he said his cousin went over to the house with him? Everyone has been wondering.
You guys, a few of you guys have asked me about the cousin. Because when the father came out again, he was talking to the media the whole week she was missing. They were all talking to the media, and he alleges, we know that he obviously was able to pick Kei'Mani up before she went missing, because we know that he took her by her biological mother's house and they played video games and had fun. And the friend says that that's the first time she ever knew that little girl to be at the bio mom's house, and she was best friends with the bio mom. So we know he had access to her to pick her up, take her freely over to the mom's house, all of that. But he alleges Sunday night the grandmother was allegedly at work, and I put that in air quotes because there's other stories that say she wasn't, but they say she was allegedly at work, and she worked night shift, and Kei'Mani had called the father. His story is that she had called the father and said that she felt like somebody was trying to break in the grandmother's house, and that him and a cousin went over there and sat with her for like an hour until she calmed down and then left, and that she was calling everybody because she was scared or whatever. So the cousin has came into question because there's been so many rumors going on about the cousin that was there and whether he'll get charged and all of this. So that's who this is in this picture.
Is the cousin charged in the case? So the question was posed to the police chief. Do you believe Darnell acted alone, or are you considering other suspects? The police chief said the chance that there might be multiple people involved, I don't necessarily believe that or disbelieve that that's the case right now. But that is something that we will continue to run down through the investigation. There are statements that always conflict each other, and there's always kind of things that need to be tied up in an investigation investigation. And that's the phase we're in right now. So right now, we only have one person charged. So that is what they said, right? I think he kind of danced around the question. He doesn't want to give too much information out right now, which is understandable given how sensitive the case is and given the fact that it could impact the integrity of the investigation. And he wants to make sure if we do have other suspects on our radar, we don't want to let that out. And, we want to do a thorough investigation before we announce those charges to anyone. Biological mom also did an interview with the news station today, and according to her, she has not received an invite to Kei'Mani's funeral, and she does not believe she will be invited to the funeral. She spoke with the news station, but she did not appear on camera. Now, what she said was that she expects she won't be invited to attend the services in Toledo. I haven't received an invite, which is really upsetting. She's taken away my daughter whole life from me. She's gotten a chance to be with my baby. This tragedy is what came of it. I just want to be able to give my kid a good send-off, and I can't do that. She's not allowing me to do that. Now, keep in mind that, as everyone knows by now, Kei'Mani was living with Dorothy, who is Kei'Mani's biological mother's mom, right? And so she's speaking in reference to Dorothy not allowing her to be at the funeral. What are your thoughts on this? Should Kei'Mani's mother be allowed to attend the funeral? It is unfortunate that this situation occurred to Kei'Mani. Like, she was so young, and to have her life end in such a manner, but her mom is saying, hey, regardless if I was in her life or not, I deserve to be at her funeral, and the grandmother apparently is not going to allow that, at least at this time. What are your thoughts about that?
A demon on my back right now this morning, and he want to do something.
This is 2021. This is the father, the suspect in the case.
Because he's getting on my nerves a lot. Chill out. A lot of bullshit early morning, bro.
Did not
Can't wake up to just peace.
I could never have peace. On another day in your life.
Head hurt. It is a nice morning, though. Can't say that.
Devin. Yeah, he said he got a demon on his back. Okay, so these were messages. We all know that they're all, a lot of the family is coming out. These messages, these posts, I should say, are from family members of Kei'Mani's. She said, this one says, I'm absolutely being for the people when I post about my niece. I want the people to see and know Kei'Mani grew up on love. She wasn't just a foster kid. She was our family. We may not have been related by blood, but we were all connected by love. Okay. And then this one says her grandmother failed her. It was never safe or smart to leave Kei'Mani by herself. Kei'Mani's mental is not like a 13-year-old. Her grandmother lied. Her grandmother described her as the opposite of how she really is in that interview. Why? Why lie? What happened to Kei'Mani? So this was after the interview that she did, because there was some talk about her mentality, and some people were trying to say that she did not have the mentality of a 13-year-old. Some people said that was a lie. The grandmother said that wasn't true. And this is family saying that the grandmother lied about that and that she was the opposite of how she described her. So Also, this is another post. It says, I'm going to say this once and one time only. My auntie. Now, her auntie is the godmother. If you guys remember, which we've got different stories from the godmother and the mother as far as timelines and stuff and when Kei'Mani lived with different people, but they have both agreed on the fact that she did live with the quote unquote godmother. Um, and the godmother was the grandmother's friend, I believe. That was who they called the godmother. And she is who actually, I think, raised Kei'Mani for the most cumulative years. Because she was switched around a lot. Like they said in that video, she had went to 6 different schools. But this person calls the godmother her auntie. So that's who she's speaking about in this. She said, I'm going to say this once and one time only. My auntie don't have shit to do with none of this. Y'all want a motherfucker to go down Story Lane to tell family business. She don't owe no explanation for nothing. When an MTF know how Kei'Mani was in my auntie custody, MTFs are liars. Redirect y'all's energy because over this one, we not gonna play that on my mama. Yes, everybody knew about Kei'Mani, but what can we do if we're telling the system? If it's in their hands, nothing we can do. Point fingers where they need to be, flat out. So she's basically saying that they were trying to get Kei'Mani out of the situation, that, the custody, because the custody had just been given to the grandmother not long ago. I think, what'd they say, a year or so or something? So she had just recently went from this person's auntie, which is the godmother, to the grandmother. And she's basically saying, like, hey, we tried, like, we were trying to tell the system. She's saying it wasn't safe there. It was never a good idea to put her in her custody, that basically people knew that she was being abused. Even the little girl. What hurt me, one of the things that hurt me the most was seeing that little girl on the news media saying that she had come to school with bruises and that her and a couple friends told a teacher. And the fact that, I mean, at that age, that little girl has to realize her faith in humanity got damaged just a little bit. But not even just a little bit, a lot. Because, as kids, we're told, if you see something, say something, and, right is right and wrong is wrong, and if something's going on, people will help and everybody will help this little girl. If you're in help, if you need help, just tell somebody, tell an adult, and you'll get help. And this little girl saw her friend coming to school with bruises, knowing that she was getting abused, and went to a teacher. A couple of the friends went to a teacher. The teacher went and told the system. The system went out and inspected and said, there's nothing we can do. We can't take it. We can't take her away. And her faith in humanity, I'm sure, was crushed by this, because she did everything she could and she still couldn't help her. And that's a hard thing. That is a hard lesson to learn at 13. That poor little girl on that news media, this will forever shape her life. And I hope that it doesn't shape it in a bad way. I mean, I know it's a tragedy, but I hope that this doesn't lead her down a path, shout out to Jill for that super chat. They all knew and allowed it. Now trying to get fake from this angel. She's lying. Just disgusting. Hey, Tamika, too many kids getting hurt unnecessarily. Failed her, and it just makes me tear up. Yes. So I, of course, will continue updating on this case. I think, again, there's going to be so much. I'll continue updating on the case with the NICU nurse, and also the case out of Connecticut with the man who was held captive for 20 years. And this Kei'Mani Latique case is sadly not going anywhere, and I think more and more is going to continue to come out. I think that there were so many people involved, and the timeline of what happened and how it happened and all of that is yet to come. So thank you guys so much for being here. We actually, usually I do about an hour for true crime. We're almost at 2 hours. So I appreciate you guys and all of your support. Thank you so much. If you guys will please hit that thumbs up, there's 323 of you guys in here. If you guys will hit that thumbs up on your way, I'd greatly appreciate it. And I will see you again next Tuesday for True Crime Tuesday. If I decide to do another one, because I have thought about adding another true crime, if I find some time this week to have another true crime, I will let you guys know and post about it on the page. And also, if you get the text alerts, you will always be notified when I'm live, whether it's about malarkey or true crime. All you have to do is text at Connie FAF to 81010, and you'll be alerted anytime that I post something or go live. Definitely check it out. I'm not sure. I think it's just if you're in the US, check it out. Of course, message and data rates do apply. But thank you guys so much. And I will be back shortly for the malarkey because we do have some stuff to cover. So I'll see you guys in about 30 minutes. Thank you so much. And for all my true crime junkies, I will see you next week. Bye. Olivia, malarkey is foolishness that I cover on the internet, drama, things like that. I'll be back in about 30 minutes for that if you want to check it out. Bye, y'all. See some of you